40, verse 31. And it reads, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." So the title of tonight is On Fire and Going Higher. On fire and going higher. Because to get to Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31, first we have to start at Isaiah chapter 6. Because if you look at Isaiah the prophet, in chapter 1 through 5, he's prophesying and he's on point. But something happens in chapter 6. All right? If you don't know, it's going to hit tonight. So look, in chapter 6, verse 1, it says, "In the year that King Uzziah died." That's very important. Because I have to ask you, what is the Uzziah in your life? What is the Uzziah in my life? Because whatever Uzziah is, I want it to be there. Because to see what Uzziah did, we have to go to 2 Chronicles verse 26. Uzziah, he was a king. He started out young, just like me, just like a lot of you from the church, 16 years old. And he fought the Philistines. He's a warrior king. God helped him. But when God helped him, he forgot God. And so the Ammonites gave him gifts. His fame spread, so he got a big head. The Bible says he strengthened himself versus relying on the Lord who gives everlasting strength. And so a lot of times in the world there can be a temptation to say, "I did it," and to forget about God. And that's what we learned with Uzziah, because then he was lifted up to destruction. And he said he had, so that would be pride, because Uzziah thought he could offer the incense that the priest offered. But he said, what does this have to do with storm? It has everything to do with storm, because up till verse 6, until Uzziah died, we don't see the power and prophecy in Isaiah. Go back home and read verses 1 through 5 and then look after verse 6. We see Isaiah gets clarity. Because what happens after verse 1? Isaiah says, so step 1 to find Uzziah must die, because step 2 is we must see the Lord. To soar. Because in verse 1 it says, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne. So after Uzziah died, now Isaiah sees the Lord sitting upon a throne. Because Uzziah did something so bad, by trying to offer the peace offering, that's like him trying to be Jesus. Uzziah in today's world represents the spirit of the Antichrist. It represents humanism. It represents I did it myself and God doesn't get any glory. So after Uzziah dies in our life, because no man can serve two masters. So if we wonder what's going on nowadays, we can't serve Uzziah and see the Lord. It has to be one or the other. So then Isaiah sees the Lord. He sees him high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. So, and there's so much more about seeing the Lord. And then we go to Isaiah 40, we see more about the Lord. But then step 3, to being on fire and going higher, here's what happens in chapter 6 that we all want. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 5. The step 3 to going higher. Because here's the thing. Tonight's message is just like this. It's really quick. A blimp. If you look at a blimp, a lot of times you might get in a blimp or a hot air balloon, but before that blimp takes off, what has to happen? It has to catch fire, and a lot of those weights that are pinning it down, we have to lay aside every weight, every sin that so easily besets us, and look unto Jesus. Because Isaiah, after Uzziah had been set aside, looked at Jesus. And so once we see our own sin, because he is the prophet. So in chapter 6, verse 5, first in verse 1 through, in chapters 1 through 5, he sees everyone else's sin. And a lot of times in the church we can say, you know, those people out there, the people in the world, the kid with his pants down, or we say, or the girl who we see dressed, or whatever we might say in the church. But then what happens, once we see the Lord, then we see our own sin. That's right. Once we see how perfect and pure he is. Isaiah prophet, who's been prophesying and hearing from the Lord, verse 5 says, then said I, woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts.